The blood work isn't horrible, but I think it's time for a little break. Vigorous Steve here. So now that this 30-week cycle is finally coming to an end, I want to take this video as an opportunity to kind of review this 30-week cycle and discuss the cycle and the outcome of the cycle from a blood work and body composition perspective. I also want to discuss what's next in the cards for me over the next couple of weeks, 3 months or so, that I'm coming off cycle and doing ACG monotherapy to improve testicular function beyond the testicular function that I have right now. But before we get into all of that, please like the video, leave a comment for the algorithm, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. Now, first things first, let's discuss the body composition changes which took place over the last 30 weeks or so. I started this cycle at approximately 94-95 kilograms, looking like that. With a decent physique, all things considering. I mean, this is after being off cycle for almost 9 months or so with a natural testosterone production of about 500 to 600 nanograms per deciliter. Didn't look too bad, didn't look great either. This was me at the start of this cycle. I started with a very low and moderate dose of 156 milligrams testosterone enanthate with 125 milligrams primobolan on top. Some people would say that's not a cycle. You should call it TRT plus, whatever it is. It's less than 300 milligrams. That's what I ran for about 3 months in duration, after which I increased the dose to about 235 milligrams testosterone enanthate and 375 milligrams primobolan on top, a total of 600 milligrams. So I made one increment, one adjustment to my overall cycle. Of course, in the meantime, I ran a ton of different experiments with raloxifene and all kinds of peptides. It's all documented on this YouTube channel. I'll link the direct videos of all the experiments which I did over these last 30 weeks down below in the description section because there's too many videos to link at the end of this video. So feel free to skip through your favorite part of my 30-week cycle. So all in all, over the entire duration of this cycle, lasting a little bit over 6 months in duration, I gained only 2.5 kilos on the scale, from 94.8 kilograms to 97.3 kilograms, where I was about a week ago at the measurement of my last progress pictures, looking like that. But for this 2.5 kilos on the scale, I would say that the body composition changes have been quite dramatic. I'm very pleased with the results. Just keep in mind that I'm solely relying on muscle memory. I can't emphasize this enough. Don't expect to make the same results on a similar cycle like this, because I used to run much higher dosages in the past of up to 2,000 milligrams of anabolic androgenic steroids per week, and I used to be much bigger and heavier than what I'm showing in these after pictures at week 30. But it's probably fair to compare the pictures of week 4 at 97.2 kilograms to the pictures of week 30 at 97.3 kilograms, because in both cases I'm on steroids, right? The dosages are different, 285 milligrams versus 600 milligrams, but at least in week 4 I was already on steroids, well, for 4 weeks obviously, so the mineral retention is there, the nitrogen retention, the glycogen retention. I've been training at higher training capacity, so there's a little bit of inflammation within the muscle, all resulting in muscular fullness. So I'm looking fuller at week 4, and the body weight changes are a little bit more noticeable. The strength increases are there. So I feel that it's a little bit fairer comparison. Week 4 to 30, similar body weight. There's still a decent amount of body composition changes which occurred. Right? I'm fuller, I'm harder, I'm denser, I'm leaner, I'm drier now at week 30 compared to week 4. So all in all, I would say that this cycle is a success, even though most of my blood work parameters did take a turn for the worst. You see that my serum creatinine levels went up to 1.24 milligrams per deciliter. Again, that's still within the reference range, but it is of note that creatinine went up over the last 6 months or so. Now again, did I gain 25% more muscle mass? The scale would say otherwise. I did lose fat. I did gain a little bit of muscle mass in return, as you saw from the before and after pictures. But did my muscle mass increase with 25%, explaining this increase in creatinine? No, it certainly didn't. Now, protein metabolism obviously went up with 25%, going on steroids, increasing training intensity, increasing my protein intake. So all of that is of note. It didn't go up as high as it used to be at around 1.5 milligrams per deciliter for my serum creatinine, but I do feel that it's time to slowly bring that down over the next 3 months or so by lowering my protein intake a little bit, lowering my training intensity, albeit that I will still train balls to the wall for my leg day. We'll discuss that after we've gone over the blood work results. My blood urea nitrogen went up slightly, still within the reference range. Of course, I increased my protein intake from about 225 grams to the end about 300 grams per day. So it is of note that blood urea nitrogen will come up. My creatine phosphate kinase went up to a maximum of about 2,200 units per liter at the end of this cycle. So that's a normal part of increasing your training intensity. My C-reactive protein levels on a high sensitivity test stayed pretty much the same throughout the duration of this cycle, around 0.5 milligrams per liter. I did have a single instance of 2 milligrams per liter. Could be a one-off, right? I'm always on top of my inflammatory markers by sticking with pharmaceutical-grade testosterone enthate and primobolan. And all of the peptides that I've sourced were either pharmaceutical-grade from Russia or through the compounding pharmacy that I have here in Thailand. However, my lipids did take a turn for the worst, especially towards the end there when I added in 5 milligrams of Anavar sublingually. So I ended up with an HDL of 26 milligrams per deciliter, which certainly isn't favorable. But I feel that for the majority of this cycle, my HDL and LDL were actually quite good. When I was running raloxifene, my HDL and LDL ratio was quite favorable. On dorkesterone and ecdysterone, my HDL and LDL ratio was quite favorable. My HDL was actually quite high, considering I was running 375 milligrams of primobolan and a TRT plus dose of testosterone. Right? Lipids will never be perfect on cycle, no matter how many ancillaries you're running. But sprinkling in the Anavar certainly worsened it and ending up with an HDL of 26. Now, the total cholesterol stayed pretty comparable throughout the duration of this cycle. Again, the ratio between HDL and LDL might be favorable or worse at certain periods of time. The first 3 months, my HDL and LDL was actually quite good because I was just running a TRT plus dose of steroids, but increasing the dose to 600 milligrams in total. Well, lipids were not that favorable, so it's about time to get these lipids back into their favorable ranges by coming off cycle and doing ACG monotherapy. Again, the diet will not really change much over the next couple of weeks. The supplementation protocol won't really change. It's just taking the primo and testosterone out, increasing the ACG potentially, depending on my blood work results, and that over time, with the exact same cardio, the exact same diet, and the exact same supplementation protocol, will still improve my lipids to very favorable levels. Again, that will be for 3 months. Then I'll probably go back on cycle and lipids will take a turn for the worst again. But well, that's the nature of the beast. As long as my C-reactive protein levels are very good and very low, I'm not supposedly risking cardiovascular disease. Liver markers. All of my liver markers stayed pretty much the same. The globulin, the albumin, the total protein, right? All of those liver markers are almost identical to when I started this cycle, but the aminotransferases, the ALT and the AST have pretty much doubled. Again, they worsened by adding in the Anavar. I feel that my liver was responding quite poorly to the Anavar, even though my muscle accrual and pumps and all that good stuff was very favorable. So, well, it's a fair trade-off, right? You get good results in the gym, and something is going to have to give. And in this case, there was the lipids and the liver enzymes. So for the majority of this cycle, I feel that my liver enzymes were quite good. My liver enzymes were somewhat elevated during the 12 weeks that I was running the raloxifene experiment, and towards the end during the 2 weeks that I was running sublingual Anavar. So let's say that's 14 weeks in duration that I potentiated the liver stress with these experiments that I was running, almost half of the time. So again, that's all the more incentive to come off, give my liver a break, detoxify. I might do the monthly fast again during these 3 months or so that I'm off cycle. Again, I don't expect to build any new muscle tissue, so I will shrink. I will promote a detoxification with a fasting mimicking diet or a full fast. Maybe take some time off from the gym, right? Let my body rest and recover and bring all of these liver enzymes down. Let's say somewhere around the baseline readings at the start of this 30-week cycle. Gamma GT was in range throughout, no real changes there. So again, that's a true indication of liver stress or liver burden, even though the aminotransferases might swing up or down depending on what you're doing during your cycle. As long as gamma GT is within range, especially towards the bottom of the range, I don't see a real indication of liver stress. Over the duration of this cycle, my hematocrit increased with approximately 25%. quite a steep increase, especially considering I was running 375 milligrams primobolan per week, 600 milligrams steroids in total, not an insanely high dose, not a dose where you would expect this much erythropoiesis and a high hematocrit or high red blood cell count. Still, I feel that there's some epigenetic changes when guys stay on cycle for such a long time. When they come off, they do post-cycle therapy, they come back to endogenous testosterone production, their hematocrit drops quite severely to the bottom or even below the clinically recognized reference range for men. I've seen guys with 37%, 40%. In my case, it was 44%. That's towards the bottom of the reference range. Then when you do go back on cycle, the hematocrit shoots back up again quite fast. And the red cell distribution width stays the same. All of the other markers related to red blood cells stay pretty much the same or expected for this high hematocrit. When you have such a dip in endogenous testosterone production and then go on super physiological amounts, even a cycle of 600 milligrams, hematocrit comes down during PCT and during the time that you're in endogenous testosterone, and then shoots back up to the top of the reference range. Now, 375 milligrams of primobolan is not a very high dose. I'm running 40 milligrams of telmisartan per day, which some people claim that telmisartan is sufficient enough to keep hematocrit in range. You'll never have to donate on telmisartan, right? I've heard statements like this. I don't think that's the case at all. As you see from my blood work results and increases in hematocrit, I would be up for a donation, give or take around 54% hematocrit. But I'm going to be fasting in a week or so, and fasting brings my hematocrit down with approximately 2%. I'm going back to endogenous testosterone production, so I expect my hematocrit to drop over the next 3 months or so. Maybe I'll end up at 44% again. Again, time will tell, right? My blood work will give the final say in that. I don't think there's a reason to donate. Just keep in mind, if you've been cycling for a long time and you see such a dip on your blood work yourself, you go back on cycle, no matter how much telmisartan, well, 40 milligrams of telmisartan in this case. If you're on telmisartan, the longer you stay on cycle, the higher your hematocrit is going to go. And if you have a history with doing donations in the past, you might still need to donate, even though you're on a substantially lower dose. Keep that in mind. And before you ask, no, I don't have sleep apnea. I don't have any issues with that. My body weight did not increase to 118 kilos where it was in the past. The heaviest I've been is 103 kilos during the cycle, and that's where I feel the most comfortable. So no sleep apnea, on telmisartan, a moderate dose of primobolan, perhaps epigenetic changes, causing my hematocrit to come up to the top or slightly over the clinically recognized reference range. Let's discuss the hormones. Well, obviously my estrogen came up. Obviously my testosterone levels came up. That's the whole wonders of going on exogenous testosterone. Needless to say, the SHBG came down. I was not able to sustain my SHBG levels compared to baseline. I was able to sustain them somewhat on terkesterone and ecdysterone, as I mentioned in the previous video, discussing those blood work results. But whoop-de-doo, after adding in the Anavar, SHBG still single digits. DHA I was able to sustain with intelligent use of ACG, so DHA sulfate levels were somewhere toward the middle of the top of the reference range. I'm not sure where my pregnenolone levels are at because, unfortunately, I can't test those at Bria Labs, and it's a little bit cumbersome to go to a private clinic for my pregnenolone level, so I didn't bother to test those. I tested a ton of other markers, but those didn't really change. Notably, hemoglobin A1C stayed around 4.7, 4.8%. IGF-1 levels stayed pretty much the same. Growth hormone stayed pretty much the same, right? It's all not very notable. I'll list them on the screen nonetheless for your educational purposes in case you're interested. So all things considering, I think it's, the blood work isn't horrible, but I think it's time for a little break. Right? So I'll be taking a break from training, super intense training that is. I'll be taking a break from the cycle. I'm going on ACG monotherapy. I'll continue with the same dose of 250 IUs Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or I was running Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, but now I'll switch that to Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That's my quite easy to remember injection days. So I'll continue with the dose. I'll probably do that for another, I don't know, maybe to the end of March. Then check my testosterone levels, see where they are at that point in time, because that gives me about 5-6 weeks to clear the testosterone enanthate and primobolan from my system. Should be long enough to let the castor oil products metabolize completely, and the blood work results are purely coming from the ACG that I'm taking at that time. Then I'll decide if I need to increase the ACG to 500 IUs or 1,000 IUs 3 times per week to continue with that ACG monotherapy protocol. And then, well, again, take it from there based on the blood work results. During this down period, I might experiment with a couple anti-aging peptides to see how much of an effect that might have on my body and my blood work results without anabolic androgenic steroids in the picture. The first one I'm going to trial is MOTS-C, 5 milligrams Monday and 5 milligrams Friday. I'll keep you up to date and let you know when this experiment has concluded. Again, there will be blood work results, before and after pictures, and my anecdotal reports on how this peptide might be beneficial for a guy like me and perhaps a guy like you or a woman like you. Stay tuned for those updates. I'll run a couple other anti-aging peptides as well, but I haven't really decided which of these peptides I'm going to run after I conclude the MOTS-C experiment. I'll keep you up to date. Don't worry about that. Over the next 3 months, somewhere in April, I'll probably schedule a gynecomastia surgery. Again, my gynecomastia isn't really severe, but now that I have a down period, now that I'm not going to the gym for the sake of pursuing my bodybuilding aspirations, I'm just going to the gym to have fun and maintain somewhat. Right now would be the right time to do the gynecomastia surgery. And it's also a good time to remove the plate from my leg, which I acquired after my motorcycle accident, to put my leg back into a place where it wasn't all crooked and stuff. I've been procrastinating to remove that plate from my leg, so I'll try to schedule all of that somewhere in April around Songkran, which is like a holiday period during this year, so probably before or after. So I don't have to leave the house during this period where people are splashing you with water and compromising your driving ability. Right? That's Thailand for you. So that will be somewhere in April. During March, I will try the following training protocol. I will train 3 times per week. I will train legs twice, Monday and Friday. Coincidentally, on the days I'm using ACG because I need a little boost in testosterone on my leg days. And then probably on Wednesday, I'll either train arms or chest. I'm going to do this protocol in an attempt to preserve the mass on my legs and on my chest, but I still haven't really decided if I want to continue with chest or arms. And I want to do either or. So let me know down below in the comment section what you would like to see. I will surely do legs twice per week, a lower volume, higher intensity approach. Again, I'm relying on endogenous testosterone production, so there's not so much recovery capability. I will keep the diet pretty much the same, but because I'm only going to the gym, 2 days a week intensely, and then either the chest day or the arm days is going to be probably not as intense as the leg day, obviously, but still a decent intensity to sustain the muscle mass that I've had. I want to get into a position that when I start my cycle, the leg mass and the chest mass or the arm mass, depending on what you guys want to see, is there, so I can progress straight into the cycle and start making some progress again. Because again, during this cycle, I'm purely relying on muscle memory. Now, I want to start the next cycle, let's say June, July, potentially, depending on when it's a suitable temperature to start training hard again. I want to start that cycle with adequate amounts of leg mass, quad mass, hamstrings I don't really need to improve. If I say so myself, it's mostly the quads, and my chest or my arms, depending on what you guys want to see. I want to start that cycle with a decent amount of mass and then progress from there. So maybe the last cycle I do in my life before I have kids, around the age of 40, I could say that I still improved my chest and still improved my quads or still improved my triceps, which as of now are the most glaring, weaker body parts. I feel that my shoulders, my back, my biceps, my hamstrings, my glutes, my calves, those are all reasonably developed. It's just my quads, my chest, and my triceps that I would still like to improve. We'll document, improve all of that over the next couple of weeks or so. Just let me know what you would like to see. Would you like to see gains on the chest or maintaining strength on the chest or on the arms, right? For sure, I will do legs, but I'll leave it up to you depending on what you guys want to see. And I'd like your opinion on something else. Yesterday, I had a cheat meal, and then afterwards, I was walking through the mall, which is air-conditioned, sweating profusely, being a little bit uncomfortable. And that's not anything I'm doing. The protocol hasn't changed. I didn't add in the DNP. It's simply because Thailand is getting hotter and because my metabolic rate is starting to pick up somewhat after 30 weeks of being super consistent with my diet and my training and my cardio and obviously the performance enhancing drugs. Now that I'm having cheat meals and the temperature here in Thailand is going up, I just start to sweat all day and I get a little bit clammy, a little bit sweaty. Yesterday I went to watch a movie and it started dripping down my head like I was using Trenbolone. So now that I'm coming off most of the performance enhancing drugs besides HCG and perhaps MOD-C, which I do understand that it might increase my body temperature slightly because it is a mitochondrial peptide that helps with ATP synthesis. So coming off all of the PEDs besides 2, keeping my protein intake pretty much the same, the temperature of Thailand increasing, I was thinking about trimming the hair down to a buzz cut again. So let me know down below in the description section if you're game for a buzz cut for the next couple of weeks or so, or completely adverse to this idea, and you're going to have to look at me on this YouTube channel. So if it's really not too pleasurable to look at, just let me know down below and I might consider it. My wife already gave me the seal of approval and I'm already pretty excited to get back to this eyebrows only haircut. I've never really been a big fan of hair, and now that it's getting hotter in Thailand, I'm looking for every single excuse. Have a look at my link tree with discount codes for all of the sponsors and affiliates that I'm associated with. Check out the ultimate source list if you're looking for something specific, over-the-counter supplement, XYZ. I'm pretty sure there's a link and a discount code in the ultimate source list. Vigorous crew, you guys know to do a front double bicep for you guys. Much love, much appreciation. We got to 51,000 subs and we're growing at lightning speed. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.